And now for something completely different.
Well, hello, and welcome to Uncorking the Story. I'm your host, Mike Carlin, and today, yes, we do have something completely different. Always love it when we start off with Monty Python, right? That means that something big is happening. I don't know. Does that mean something big is happening? I guess it all depends on whether or not you like Monty Python. I love Monty Python. So here we go. Something completely different. We're going to talk about weight loss today. And here's why. Last week, I held what I like to call curiosity conversations with men. And I call them that because I wasn't hired by a client to actually have these conversations. You know, I wasn't, it's not like I just wanted to talk to men about weight loss. That it really wasn't that altruistic. I do have a prospective client who is struggling. She works in a lifestyle industry, and she's struggling. Her business is struggling with attracting men. And she was just talking to me about it. And I was thinking about how I could help her. And I thought to myself, wow, what if I just explored this topic? Like she didn't hire me to do it. What if I just explored this topic and just kind of gave her some thoughts to consider? And, maybe by doing so, it builds some goodwill. It's kind of a different approach to business development, me spending money on research. But here's the thing. I've got to get creative in finding clients, because last year was a bad year for the business, So I got to inject some life into the old Vertigo Partners LLC. Anyway, so there were curiosity conversations. I didn't have a discussion guide. That's what we moderators use to figure out what we're going to ask people. I just followed my nose. I just followed my own curiosity. And man, it was a really interesting and rewarding project for me. It's something that I've struggled with. Weight loss is something I've struggled with over the years. I've shared stories before. I lost 40 pounds in 2019. And so all these guys, I could relate to just about everything they were telling me. I mean, it's fascinating. I'll play you a few clips in a minute about it, but it's a challenge, right? Getting men to do anything lifestyle wise is a challenge. I quickly learned their initial assumption was that they just haven't talked to men in advertising, so all they need to do is address men in advertising, and if you build it, they will come kind of an approach. I can tell you right now, that's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. There's multiple layers at stake here. Multiple layers at stake. So what did I do? So I talked to people, right? And I didn't ask them, hey, what does such and such company have to do to win your attention? That's not going to work. I mean, consumers are good about talking about their problems. They're good about talking about their reactions to something you put in front of them. They're not great with coming up solutions. It's not their job to do a marketer's work for them either. And they're not good at it. They're just not good at that kind of level of creative thinking. So what I was really just digging into was really just problems guys had with weight, problems they had with weight loss, and what it is they want to do about it, how they want to approach it, what their tendencies are. And what I found out was really fascinating. And it was fascinating in the sense that I could relate to it. I could relate to everything they were telling me. So here's the first thing that smacked me in the face, right? It's that men want to try to drop weight by exercising because diet takes too much effort. And here's what some of the guys I was talking to last week had to say about that.
I always had been kind of an active person. In high school, I played football and stuff and kind of tried to control my weight through fitness, going to the gym, things like that. I've never really been a diet guy, diets, it's too much counting with the calories and what's good and what you can and things like that.
I guess I have the opinion with some of these, they're a little bit too strict for me. I might rather like to try to push myself with exercise and still be able to, during the course of a week, sort of still be able to eat some of the things that I enjoy that I think would be considered more of kind of like a junk food.
Really, keto was the first attempt I did at a diet, and What I did with it was I kind of dummied it down, because one problem I've always had with the diets is all the counting. You're counting calories, you're counting grams, you're counting carbs, you're counting all of these things. And I kind of just looked at the basic of the program. And I think men in general, we tend to be, simple people, meat and potatoes. Just tell us what we have to do and we'll do it.
Guilty as charged. We want everything to be simple. Distill it down to exactly what we need to do. This is true in weight loss. It's true in relationships. Just tell me what you want. Stop making me guess. It's true when we're putting together furniture. And I actually bought a bed from IKEA for my son. And now I know what IKEA stands. It was my first experience with IKEA. Now I know what IKEA stands for. I'll kill everyone afterwards. I think it's funny. So the KISS principle applies to us, right? The KISS principle reigns supreme. And that's not, Knights in Satanic Service. Stupid rumors about the band KISS. No, keep it simple, stupid. That's it. You got to keep it simple, stupid for us. We struggle. We struggle with anything complex. And hey, look, when I was younger, I could run away from a bad diet. Literally I could run and pounds would come off. After I hit 40, and I'd probably even say 35, not so much. One thing I realized though is that if there's an emotional component, there's an emotional component to eating. Especially if you grow up in an Italian household. My mother was Italian. My grandmother was Italian. We eat for comfort. That's part of the gig. Anyone who came to my house was immediately offered food regardless of the time of day. It's just how, we show love. I don't want to generalize by saying all Italians do this, but I think all Italians do this. And emotions, if you think about it, emotions are complex. They lead us to making, sometimes, not all emotions, they sometimes lead us to making bad choices, particularly with food. And one of the guys I talked to last week, for the sake of argument, we'll call him Andy. Andy lives in Wisconsin. He's been struggling with his weight all his life. And here's what he had to say about the emotional component to eating.
That's one of the places where I feel like I really struggle is with the emotional, handling emotions and handling stress. And then in turn, as I'm dealing with that, a coping mechanism is to, eat or, drink, consume, like in my case, one of my vices.
And oh man, did that really hit home for me. And let me tell you something. I was Andy. Andy has 2 small kids. I had 3. Now they're 18. But he has 2 small kids and he's the primary caretaker for them during the week. He's actually working from home during the pandemic. His wife has a job that requires her to be out of the home, and he's got a lot of stress on him. The pandemic is still full swing. He's making all their meals, and that's not stressful, right? But what do kids eat? What do kids eat? They eat chicken nuggets. They eat French fries. They eat mac and cheese. They eat shit that comes out of a box. They're not exactly things that lead to weight loss. And of course, as a dad, and I certainly did this. When they don't eat all their food, you don't let it go to waste. No, down the hatch it goes, and then it literally goes to waste, and that's his waste. But what he has to say about food as a coping mechanism, because of stress, is all too real. I mean, it was too real for me. Here's how that looked for me, right? For me, I used to get stressed and I wouldn't sleep. And what happens then, cortisol, right? The stress hormone goes through your body. And among other things, what that does is it increases glucose levels. And, when we have all this glucose, what do? We crave more glucose. We want more. We stress eat. We're not roasting up broccoli in the oven. We're not dabbling it in olive oil and putting a little garlic on it. No, we're opening up a bag of chips. We're going for the tasty cakes. And oh my God, did I love tasty cakes. I hate Rob Miller for introducing me to tasty cakes in the back room of a focus group facility in Philadelphia. It could have been Concha Hawken. I don't know. It doesn't really matter where it was. But what matters is that there's a contradiction emerging here, right? Our tendency is to manage weight by, exercise. Yet, unless we do something about the way we approach food and the emotional components of eating, all the exercise of the world isn't going to help us. In fact, it may make it worse. Have you ever just rewarded yourself after a good workout with food? I could have a burger. I could have a piece of cake tonight because I had a great run. It's like one step up and two steps back. There was those emotions. We got to deal with them. And, as complex as that is, the story is going to get even more complex. And it's going to get more complex because of the male ego.
Can I do this on my own? It's like you feel like psychologically, you feel like it's something wrong with me. Like, why can't I do this on my own?
I never found it justified to pay for something that I think we live in the age of information, right? I can get on Reddit, I can get on Google, I can read a book and find out all the information that I would otherwise have to pay for if I use one of these services. I know that if I can if I can create a shopping list and a meal plan and on Sunday nights cook my meals for the week, the price of that is a lot cheaper than using some of these services that purport to be magic weight loss techniques that are ultimately just going to put you at a caloric deficit, which I can do myself.
My feeling with those is that they're kind of gimmicks. They're things like Weight Watchers. And I don't even know how Noom works, but I assume it's similar. I feel like all you need is sort of motivation and self-motivation and discipline. All the magic programs in the world won't help if you're not disciplined enough to follow them or whatever program you pick for yourself.
So I want to believe I've got enough self-control that I can lose the weight without needing to get on a strict program where I can only eat certain things and people are delivering my food in a box and I got to put my calories in. And
I feel like the recipe for weight loss is pretty simple. Exercise more, eat less, have more calories going out than coming in. That's all it really is.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of ego saying, hey, I don't have enough discipline to be able to do it on my own. You know what I mean? Like, I like to think when push comes to shove, if I need to be disciplined, that I'm able to be. And I'm able to achieve a goal without somebody else necessarily having to give me assistance.
Do it on my own without somebody else necessarily giving me assistance. Ooh, there we go. We're getting to the heart of the matter now. All the men I talked to wanted to lose weight, but they wanted to do it on their own terms, which meant exercise and not necessarily dieting. They admitted that there's an emotional component to their weight. And if you know anything about guys, getting us to face our emotions isn't easy. And, we want to do it all alone. We want to do it without help, but we can't. No one, if we really need to dig into this emotional component to our behavior, and eating is behavior, we have to realize we can't do that alone because nobody can face their emotions alone. But we're men and we believe that we're different and that we can. We feel like we should be able to do it on our own. And here's the big challenge to that, right? Here's what I wanted to say to all these guys last week, but I couldn't because I was just interviewing them. It's like, how's that working out for you? We want to do it on our own. We want to do it on our own terms. We don't want to address the elephant in the room. How's that working out for you? It might work out for a while, but we're going to roller coaster. The truth is we need to have somebody we can be accountable to in order for our lifestyle changes to stick. And that's hard for guys. Now, listen, I'm not here to suggest that guys have it tough. That's not my intention. But just as society and culture puts pressure on women, it does the same thing for men. From the time we're little, we're told to get up after being knocked down, to suck it up. When my son was younger, I even heard my own wife tell him to buck up, to man up when he would whine. And, that's the reality. These messages are reinforced in the stereotypes of men that we see in movies and on TV. The hero may have some friends along his journey, but he's got to face the enemy alone. Luke had to face Darth Vader alone. I think I just said faith Darth Vader. He had to face Darth Vader alone. Mickey, yeah, Rocky had Mickey, but the Italian Stallion was the only one in the ring when he was fighting, Apollo Creed or Clubber Lang or, whoever else, the Russian guy. Who was the Russian guy? The Russian guy, not even played by a Russian. Dolph Lundgren, not Russian. I guess he looked Russian, but he wasn't Russian. yeah, we have resistance. We have resistance to asking for help. That doesn't mean we can't do it. But what I'd say to this particular client, though, is that they've got to force men to change our ways of thinking. It's almost like they have to recognize the reality that men face and then challenge it. We know you should feel that you can do this alone, but how's that working out for you? There's that phrase again. How's that working out for you? They have to realize that men are really bad at being vulnerable. Really bad at admitting we need help with weight loss, and admitting, we need help with weight loss requires vulnerability. And if that's what you need us to do, then you've got to create an environment that helps us do that in a safe way. And my God, I can't believe I'm saying it. I'm no fan of the term safe space, but for a number of reasons for that, right? But that's kind of what we need, right? We need some kind of a safe space. We need someone who wants to hold us accountable, but somebody who's not going to judge us. They're not going to judge us for our current state, if we are overweight. And they're not going to judge us when we slip, and we will slip. Everyone slips along a weight loss journey. Now, but that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of judgment. I guess we're not so different from, other people in that regard, right? So show us how you can help us. If you know that my first instinct is to want to include exercise in a lifestyle change or weight loss plan, don't just talk about your food offerings, or your system for determining how much food we can eat. Show me I can do this without fully giving up the foods I like. Reflect people like me in your communications. I love that Adele lost a ton of weight, but you know what? I'm not a woman, right? So I can't really relate to her. And number two, I don't have the same luxury she has. It's one of the guys I was talking to. He brought a picture to the interview of Chris Pratt, and it was like a before and after picture. And it was the before, Parks and Rec Chris Pratt, before Guardians of the Galaxy Chris Pratt. And he's like, look, Chris Pratt can probably take 12 hours out of his day to work out if he needed to. Maybe not when he's filming a movie or something, but he could hire trainers. He can afford, the good foods. I can't. That's what this guy was saying. And that's right. So, maybe like, even if Adele, we can't relate to Adele, we can't relate to Chris Pratt either, in many ways. So let me see myself reflected in your advertising. That's going to be important as well. So like I said before, like my weight's bounced up and down. I struggled in 2019. I started doing stand-up. I say doing stand-up, I started performing at open mics. And as part of that, I would videotape, my sets because I always wanted to get better. And I would watch the tapes, and man, did I look heavier than I've ever been, because I was. It was early 2019. I stepped on the scale after watching a video of me doing stand-up. And I was 220 pounds. And that was like a wake-up call for me, So at that time, I had bounced up and down with weight, and I did all these guys were talking about, I want to do exercise first. I don't want to touch diet. And that was my approach as well. So my weight would go up, it would go down, it would go back up again. And, I realized that I needed to make bigger lifestyle changes. So I did. I had some help, and I did wind up losing 40 pounds, between January and October, November of that year. I lost a lot of weight. And the pandemic's back. Pandemic came on. I put a little bit of back on. Don't blame me. I beat myself up about it. Believe me, I beat myself up about it. I hate the fact that I put on like 10 pounds since last March. But I know why. That's the thing. I know why I did it. I kept running. I've been running like a fiend. The other day I ran 8 miles in 28 degree weather. But the diet, it's all diet. For me, it's all diet. And it's stress eating, and it's emotional eating, and it's, being lazy. It's like Groundhog Day, another night on the couch watching TV. What are we going to do? Well, let's have another glass of wine. And then that leads to, potato chips at 10 o'clock at night and whatever. I'm not making excuses for it, but I have this like, new year, new me type approach. And, I want to be able to do it by myself. Like I want to do it by myself. I don't want to ask for help. I'm not looking forward to sacrificing some of the comforts I love, but I know what I have to do. I have to address the emotional components of eating. I've got to stop rewarding myself with treats for good behavior. It's like I have all the tools, I just need to figure out how to use them again. And maybe what I'm missing is having someone else to be accountable to, for reaching a goal. But you know what? As I ramble on here, and I think about it even more, this whole conversation, this whole reflection, isn't just about weight loss, or is it about my attempt to help a prospective client do a better job with attracting men, people like me, into their business. It's really about exploring those universal traits that we share when it comes to lifestyle changes. Number one, we want to do it on our own terms. Number two, we have to fully recognize how emotions drive our behavior, in order to change. And in order to change our behavior, we have to work on our emotions. And number three, we want to be able to do all of this on our own, but we have to realize that we can't do it alone. We may have the tools, we may have the knowledge, but we need guidance in figuring out what to do. So, Deb, if you're listening, Deb, that's a big if. What you're really up against isn't the fact that men feel that your business has alienated them in advertising, or that your program just isn't for them. What you're up against is something bigger than that. But the good news is you've got all the tools you need to accomplish what you want to accomplish. You just may need a little help in figuring out how to use all those tools together. And thankfully, that's what I'm here for. So listen, thank you for listening to this. Again, now for something completely different, reflection on Uncorking a Story. If you like what you heard, please go over to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and, hey, subscribe. That's a good idea. Maybe give us a review. We need some more reviews. We'd love some more reviews. Also, if you like what you hear, tell a friend. Tell a friend about this. Maybe they'd like to hear what you just listened to, or any of the other 61 episodes of Uncorking a Story that we've done in the past. So listen, thank you very much. And we'll be back with another episode later on this week.